Good morning, everyone. Pardon me while I have coffee. It is episode 35 of the $9 podcast. It's Drewski, the, the head game warden of the Patreon chat for the Good Brothers, affectionately known as the Patreon is affectionately known as the Falcon's Nest. And I'm going to talk about, what am I talking about today? Well, rambling, shocking. It'll be a whole, all over the map as is tradition. And it's interesting. In the past 7 to 10 days, the boys have been flying all over the place. It's like Tijuana, up in Canada for that damn shooter Scott Demore. About at Maple Leaf Pro tomorrow and Saturday for Border Wars. Probably coming home with the tag title. Yet another one that will fill up Machine Gun's garage. There's a reason Machine Gun's cleared space out of his garage from his whatnot a couple weeks ago, so he can add more belts. For Christ's sake, and the boys have sort of like raised the profile of the shop in the past couple of days because we busted open a couple weeks ago, and today they ended up on TMZ, and in a good way. And they're because usually when you hear you're on TMZ, it's usually not a good. It's usually not a good thing, but in this case, it was a good thing because TMZ has dipped their toes into the reporting on wrestling business, and had the boys on as guests. And they made a good impression. It's like, okay, they're doing stuff like that. It's sort of raising the profile of the boys even more. Getting mainstream media attention. It's like you have WrestleMania coming up, and they keep talking about they keep laying hints that big things are coming. The latest TalkNShop live for the Nest that Machine Gun does every morning when he's not dealing with his kids. Involves him talking about bringing up something called the TalkNShop Network. Well, that's in response to the number of podcasts that the members of the Falcon's Nest are actually starting to produce on their own and basically getting out there. To that end, it's like four of the more vocal members of the Falcon's Nest have their own little subgroup called the Grunt Gang. Long story, not gonna go there. It's like they decided that they band together Super Friend style and decided to start doing their own podcasts. And the first episode is on Spotify right now. And talking about having like a bracket for like the best big man in the business. It's a lively conversation. It's like it has potential. I think a lot of the podcasts on the Nest have potential. And it helps that Machine Gun, the boys encourage the Nesters to create, explore space, give them the freedom to give them a place that hosting space basically on the Patreon to like hone the test out episodes, doing recordings, mainly doing it to pop the Nest. But if it helps to rope in the general public, so much the better. That's one. It's one of the main reasons that the boys asked me to do it or do one. I'm the. They say that you know, 90, only 2% of podcasts that ever get started, barely, barely make it to episode number 50. And this is episode number 35, so I'm more than halfway there. So, I don't consider myself I don't consider myself the best podcast, per se on the, of the Patreon over, but I like, I like to think I'm the most consistent, because of, real life interferes, right? It does play havoc with a lot of other people's, attempts to make a schedule, to try to stay on a constant schedule. Because starting a podcast isn't exactly, you have to make the time. You have to make the time, and you have to make the time to make the effort, and be willing to accept constructive criticism along the way, which I've been doing. You don't, just when you think you don't, you got to figure it out. Somebody will come at you with another way of doing things. It's like, starting from the last episode, I started using the script to edit. Because for the longest time I had a fear of, like, coming in cold. It's like first time I've ever, like, edited video of any kind, because I'm, part of me was like trying to be, part of me was trying to be transparent in terms of, like, being unedited. It's like, maybe, unedited seems more raw, more real. But I could see, that's to me. But some episodes where I will, where I go back and watch them, and I cringe because I go, oh geez, I could have cut out so much crap. Because a lot of times it's stream of consciousness stuff. It depends on the time of day I do this stuff, right? And I tend to, as you notice, I tend to stammer a bit when I get overly enthused about something. It shows. The using the script can only help me, help me tighten things up and make it seem better. So, it's like this podcast, it's a work in progress, and I hope, the more I do, more comfortable I get doing it, the better the overall experience, I hope, will be. I'll rant, time to segue here. So I'm looking, I don't know, what is TKO doing? I'm seeing matches getting changed, like, on, matches that are advertised as being title matches, now non-title matches for SmackDown. Graphics changing like every other day. I'm seeing stuff where it's like, charging way expensive, prices for certain events, like, certain meet and greets at pay-per-views. Like, $10,000 to write, just hang out on Cody's bust as a perk. That's like, that's just greed. I mean, that's just rampant greed, right? And they just announced one where it's like, for the low price of 22 grand American, for 22 grand, it's like for the, their pay-per-view in Italy coming up. You get to help you get to make pasta with a WWE superstar. Ooh, 22 grand. let me get this straight. For the price of a car, price for price of a compact car, something I can drive for years. Like I can learn how to make pasta in Italy. With probably a low to mid card guy, with a WWE superstar. Where do I sign up? Really? It's like, it's like, of all the things that, all the things that they can be, all the perks, it just boggles my mind, really. It's like, I understand they're trying to think outside the box, but, 22 grand to think about outside the box does not compute for me, right? I got better things to do with my money. Way better things to do. Yeah, apparently Crystal Tama has better things to do with his money too, because he's enjoying paying 5-figure fines. The boys calling him, Thomas Stasiak popped me on the latest live. That's the thing, technology is advancing at the rate where it's like they have to come up with new ways to deal with it, because that sort of thing, like about 10-15 years, you never would have thought, like, hey, let's put a camera in glasses and record shit, right? And it's sure, it's frowned upon, looking at it, but at the end of the day, it's not like, it seems like a trifle. Yeah. I've seen the argument made about, well, they're independent contractors, they shouldn't really be fined. It's like, yeah, about that. Shouldn't be fined. They can't be fined, but they can be fired, right? And you got to remember that you got the fabled that post WrestleMania cuts are on the horizon here. Don't think people, in the midst of all the WrestleMania, sort of hype, people tend to forget. It's like the post WrestleMania purge annual post WrestleMania purge is on the horizon, right? So a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things are going to change in the next month or two, right? And some of it's going to confuse a lot of people. Definitely going to confuse a lot of people. And I see Jericho, the good brother Jericho, registered trademark for a new thing. I think it's a trademark for like a cornerstone, which means he may be coming back. His time doing the Fozzy things is up for now, and he's coming back to reinvent himself, because it's been a year. Realize he's been gone for a year now? Doesn't seem like that, does it? What happens? Does he completely reinvent himself again? Wouldn't be the first time. Would not put it past him to reinvent himself once again. And if this is like the run, because people are saying, okay, because they're going to be in Winnipeg, so now people are speculating Jericho's coming back at the show in Winnipeg for the AEW, because it is his hometown, right? It's his hometown. Kenny, Kenny's there, right? It would line up, but it's like, what do you do? Or it's an embarrassment of riches for AEW. They have so many people. It's a real good problem to have. It's like you got a ton of talent and not much time, right? It's just a matter of like plugging it in. What guys would fit the story, the story you want to tell best, right? And then you got MJF doing side quests. He just announced he's going to wrestle Nick Nemeth. TNA's Nick Nemeth, by the way, a creative pro. MJF's old stomping grounds in a couple weeks for the AEW belt. So it's basically it's sort of it's a little semi forbidden doorish because you have AEW versus TNA in a neutral ring, right? Because they've been working the angle on Busted Open the past couple weeks, and it'll be a fun match because it will be a fun match, but how do you build off of that? It will be telling. How you build off that would be telling. The boys had their live, and you had last week, and they had like Barry Darso, also known as Smash, also known as Repo Man, and Stevie Ray telling amazing stories. The quality. The quality of guests has gone up on the live, and it ain't stopping anytime soon because next week, Great Brother Killer Cross is finally making his debut in the shop. I say Great Brother because he is a great brother. I met him when he was in TNA, when he was in Impact. I met him. There was like a bar wrestling a couple of years ago had a trios tournament. It lasted 2 nights. It was like a weekend. It went on two different arenas. And so basically, loaded car. They had like enough talent on the indies where it was like several groups of trios, right? And one of the trios was Cross, Scarlett, and Ricky Shane Page as a team, and they ended up doing like They ended up doing a mini angle throughout the weekend about that culminated in Ricky Shane Page against Killer Cross, like on the second night at Bar Wrestling, which was which you don't really see like mini angles like that carry over on like a multiple show, especially in the indies, and that's like I appreciated the hell out of that back then, and Cross is a great dude. I can't wait to see can't wait to see him in the shop. And the boys are going to be in Japan in a couple weeks. You know what that means? That means they're going to be doing TalkNShop lives at Tokyo Dome hotel hours, which will mean since they're 19 hours ahead. So it'll be like early. It'll be normally it'd be 7 o'clock. They normally do lives like 7:10 on Wednesday nights. So if they do like lives from Tokyo, it'll be like in the middle, like early to mid morning, like 1 or 2 in the afternoon in Japan. They got a bar set up and everything, and it's like But Gallows has to get Gallows has to be focused. Oh God, does he have to be focused? And amazing how jet lagged the boys are going to be back. Going to be in a month after all the travel they're going to do, because because they got 2 weeks in Japan coming up, and a week in Australia, then another 2 week, home for 2 days, and then it's like another 2 weeks in Japan. It's like they're going to be running ragged, and it's like the gun said on the TMZ thing. It's like they're working more than they're working like the old school WWE schedule, where it's like they're working almost all the time, almost full time, right? And if you're not used to it, if you're not because if you're not used to it, it will wreck you. It's, like they said, it's not the wrestling itself; it's the travel. Especially with all the travel woes going on in the U.S. right now, it's like respect hours of delays and stuff. It could put a kibosh on everything, right? And especially stuff going on the other side of the world, and I'm not even going to bring up because it's been done to death. I don't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what their angle's going to be when they go back to Noah, because apparently it's like LIJ's basically got the six man titles, and it's I noticed that Murder Grandpa is also in Noah as well, but Murder Grandpa wrestles where he wants to. Who's going to tell Murder Grandpa no and live? He's earned that. He's earned that. He has definitely earned that. And I'm sure, as we get closer to WrestleMania, the card will be more focused. You should, well, it should be. I mean, because they're like there's like 3 weeks to go here, and they don't really have a full card set up. They have the bare bones of one, but they've been, they keep playing around with certain things, and it's like it's confusing the hell out of a lot of the audience. It's like, can you commit to something, commit to the card, so they have like a definite direction going in. It's like it's like they're hesitant to make confirm a card because they're afraid like there's either injury situations or something else entirely, or they're negotiating with certain people and the negotiations aren't exactly going great. Because I noticed apparently that the one recently acquitted Ted DiBiase Jr. Apparently got a phone call, allegedly from Randy Orton, about showing up in Vegas to be, planting these seeds for like, sort of a legacy reunion, and at WrestleMania. It's like, does that match really need that? No, it doesn't. It's like, what, does not really need that at all. I don't, it's good to hear, it's good that again, it's good that the boys' profile is going up. The podcast ratings keep going up for their episodes. They're like consistently like in the top 40 of wrestling podcasts right now. If you look up like podcasts or ratings for podcasts, it's a little, you know, there's about 250 plus wrestling podcasts listed. That you know of, right? But the thing is, a lot of the ones in the lower part of the rankings haven't really put out any new material in like years, so they're just on there just to be there. So it's a little skewed, but but Spiffy Sean and Ashley's podcast have actually charted on last week, which is great for them and great for the Nest because it builds the profile up even more. And that's all I can, that's it bolsters the portfolio of what the gun wants to do. He says he wants to do. It's like, they like to play real close to the vest, like saying what they have planned. It's like you would think they'd have the have the people that they're making content for it and basically be a little more in the know about that kind of thing, so they know what to expect instead of like having to adjust on the fly. But c'est la vie. It's like it's wrestling. It's basically plans. It's subject to card subject to change and everything. So to that end, it's basically it's always a whole